All right, buckle up because Sony's doing something so shameless, so petty, so straight up embarrassing that I even had to double check to make sure I wasn't reading some parody news post, guys. Concord is back. Yeah, you heard that right. Not because Sony fixed it, not because Sony invested in it, not because Sony suddenly cared about the players. No, fans brought Concord back online, and Sony is now issuing DMCA takedowns to erase the comeback. Yes, the $400 million plus failure that Sony abandoned after 2 weeks is back. Yeah, players, they revived it, and Sony is instantly trying to bury it again. Welcome to another episode of Stop Killing Games unless Sony really wants to. So let's set the scene, guys. Let me remind you what Concord was, because we talked about it immensely on this channel. It was a failure. This was supposed to be Sony's next big live service flex. It was a $40 hero shooter. There was no campaign. There was no unique style, no identity. It was released in a market where every other game is free. And it lasted, what, 12 days? 14? Somewhere there. It died so fast that even Anthem was like, damn, bruh, you good, bruh? Reviews said exactly what everyone already knew, guys. The game was bland. Looking at the character designs, everything, this game was bland. It was also overpriced. Should have been $0 free to play. Had zero personality, awful character designs, and absolutely no reason to exist in a world where Overwatch is free. Then Sony refunded the entire thing. If you bought a copy, you got a refund. They shut down Firewalk Studios and they wrote off the entire project as a $400 million loss. You would think that would be the end of it, right? Wrong. Gamers had other plans, and this is where things got immensely interesting, guys. Behind the scenes, there was a small group of devs by the name of Red, Open Wizard, and GWAG or GWAG. I don't know. Display names, weird. They spent months reverse engineering this game. That's kind of impressive. That's kind of impressive, guys. They spent months reverse engineering the game, rebuilding the back end, rebuilding and recreating matchmaking, and rebuilding the entire API from scratch. They might as well just coded this game themselves, guys. The insane part of this is that they actually did it and they made it work. Concord is officially playable again through fan-made custom servers. I'm talking full matches, character loading, menus, everything. This game is 100% back. I mean, for better or for worse. I think it's kind of cool that these developers were able to do that. It shows you the ingenuity and, the perseverance that some fans of games could make, whether you like this game or not. We all know most of us didn't like it. But yeah, it was fully back in fan-made custom servers. And people started posting gameplay, and it spread fast like a wildfire. Everyone was like, oh my god, Concord's back. How is this fucking possible? And it's one of the coolest examples of game preservation we've seen this year, which I'm big on game preservation. When you get a lot of these companies that delist digital only games and they close servers down, it sucks. It sucks, man. It sucks. But, we can never have anything good. The moment that this gained any kind of traction, Sony woke up and they chose violence, guys. Sony started DMCA striking out of nowhere, or at least their enforcement partner, Marxon, I believe that's what they called. They began issuing DMCA takedowns on videos that showed the Revive custom server gameplay. They didn't want that. Nope, they didn't want any of that. Now, here's where things get kind of fucked up. It wasn't the launch gameplay. It wasn't beta footage. It wasn't old trailers. It was only the revival, the fan-made servers that they worked hard to reverse engineer and put back together so that the game could be intact. I don't know. That's kind of fucked up, right? Sony took down the part that proves gamers did what Sony couldn't, and that's what is fucked up about it. They basically brought this game back to life, reverse engineered, coded it, had everything from scratch with the API, and Sony took that down. It wasn't like they were using Sony's coding. Let me say that again. Sony abandoned this game. Sony shut down the servers. Sony erased the studio. Sony refunded the customers. But the second that players bring it back, Sony goes, delete that now. All of it. Get rid of it. Wipe it off the internet. Why? Why? I'm like John Travolta looking around, right? On Pulp Fiction. Because nothing terrifies a corporation more than gamers proving that a dead game wasn't dead. It was just mismanaged. And again, Firewalk Studios mismanaged the hell out of Concord. All, woke nonsense aside, it's no doubt that Firewalk Studios was a mess of a studio. They were disorganized, they were mismanaged, and they let down gamers that were at least wanting to spend their money to play this disaster of a game called Concord. So let's break down why Sony is panicking. Why are they losing their mind over this? Well, number one, it exposes that Concord could have survived as a game, which is the biggest thing that they want to hide. If the community can resurrect the whole back end, reverse engineered in months, that means Sony could have kept the game alive if they actually cared. But they don't care. They just want money. That's why it wasn't free to play to begin with. Number two is it fuels the Stop Killing Games movement, and Sony absolutely does not want this becoming a success story. If fans recreating Concord becomes a success, they're going to be having egg all over their face, and they're going to become basically singled out. Because if Concord becomes the face of players reviving dead games, that's a nightmare for a corporation that wants total control. They can't control a fan-made Concord. But the last reason is it humiliates their $400 million decision making, guys. Imagine investing hundreds of millions of dollars, tanking the launch, killing the game, and then the fans revived it for fucking free. That is embarrassment. Of course they're embarrassment. They want to control the narrative. If Concord revival videos go viral, Sony looks like the villain. They look incompetent. They look out of touch. So instead of admitting that players did something good and awesome, Sony's response is, take it down. We said the game is dead. Do not prove us wrong. That's what it is. That's absolutely what it is, guys. Meanwhile, the internet's having an absolute field day about this. Reddit's memeing. Reddit's gonna Reddit, guys. Everyone's joking about the dozens of Concord players. They're saying peak live service is back. There's finally a reason to live. Imagine Sony gets trolled into relaunching it like Morbius. And honestly, it's not even impossible. If this underground custom server version of Concord becomes the meme shooter of 2025, Sony might actually panic enough to try to relaunch it or reboot it. I mean, there's been crazier things happen in life, right? Which would be hilarious because it would mean Sony lost millions twice on the same game if they can afford it. I don't know. But jokes aside, here's the real reason why this matters, okay? This isn't about Concord. This isn't about whether a game was mid, overpriced, or ugly to look at. This is about ownership. This is about game preservation. This is about corporations deciding what you're allowed to play. If Sony could DMCA a revival of a game that they themselves killed, what stops them from doing it to every other live service title that goes offline? Again, you give somebody an inch, they will take a mile every time. At what point do gamers actually own anything? That's why this revival of Concord is important. Because every time a community brings back a shutdown title, they're sending a message, which is you don't get to erase something just because you think it's done. So I want to hear from you guys. Does this Concord revival make you want to see more fan-led resurrections of some games that have been taken down? Does Sony's DMCA meltdown make them look out of touch? Is this a dub for Stop Killing Games? And more importantly, should players have the right to revive dead games even when the publisher wants to bury them? Drop your thoughts below. I'll be reading every comment. This one's going to get spicy. It's going to be a spicy meatball. But also, make sure you guys hit that like button if you haven't. Subscribe. I don't just say that for my health. That'll help grow the channel, help boost it out to more people so we can watch it. And I enjoy making these videos for you guys. So thank you so much. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.